Hello, welcome back to another Godzilla Battle Line video. Today we're going to be doing our Season 19 tier list. I got everything in order. Didn't get a new monster this season, so didn't want to keep you guys waiting too long to hear all my opinions and whatnot, since you guys love to come back and see what is changing from month to month. Gonna go ahead and just jump right in from the top to the bottom, starting with Batra. Now, as time has gone on, I don't know if Batra is the best unit over Mothra Leo. It is very close, and I'm almost willing to say they're equal. And I do think these past couple months I may have been wrong, and Mothra Leo may have been the stronger of the two. But it's also very level dependent, because Mothra Leo is so good with level ups and becomes so good at level 30, while Batra is really good early on all the way up until level 30. And I feel like Batra kind of fizzles out as they get to 30, where Mothra Leo is just ascending. So for most players, I still think Batra is the better option, especially if you're not a whale. But if you are a whale, I'm sure as you know, Mothra Leo is probably the most busted unit in the game and my most hated. So let's go ahead and talk about Mothra Leo. Mothra Leo is just that strong. The stats on this unit are absurd. It is way too tanky for how much damage it does initially. Extremely strong, even if you counter it by having it hit like a Space Godzilla Crystal or Kamacuras. Mothra Leo is just going to be putting in that work. It's just what he does, especially with high levels. He's so damn strong. Next is Fire Rodan. So Fire Rodan is something that's been up here for a while. Same with most of these S tiers. Fire Rodan's heal is insane. It adds so much defensive utility just because of how massive the heal can be on your leader. He also is a very good offensive unit because you could drop him with a speed boost, whether it's with another unit or by himself. That speed boost will allow Fire Rodan to fly in very fast, get on the leader if he has to, take out a Super X. Fire Rodan is just really good. There's really no downside, and the evolution's pretty damn easy. Next is Ultraman. Ultraman's got the range, he's got the stats, and he's got the piercing. He is very, very good. He's good at stalling, and Dimension Tide combo is just absolutely insane with this unit. If you use Ultraman and don't use Dimension Tide, you're a crazy person because it's so damn strong. Ultraman's really good, and I'm really willing to say that these top 4 units are all on par with each other. They're just that good. There's not really, if you're just running 2 of them, like it just, as long as you have 2 in your deck, it's pretty much that team is going to do very nicely. They all can rotate around with each other, and very good units. Next is Burning Godzilla, who I haven't really officially rated since his buff, because last tier list was a co-tier list. Burning Godzilla is an S tier unit now. The attack buff is massive for him, especially because it stacks with his explosion damage, which is his main thing. His explosion is everything. And because he's a tank that is very slow, so you can build up a lot of energy, so he doesn't really feel like he's costly to deploy. The only thing with Burning Godzilla is you have to deploy him in the back and slow walk him every time for him to be useful. If you just drop him on defense and his bar isn't charged up, he's really not going to be doing that much for you. But Burning Godzilla is such a staple. You're going to see these 5 top units in so many good meta decks. It is everywhere. So everyone's running Burning Godzilla, and then everyone's mixing in. Burning Godzilla's play rate might even be higher than some of the guys above him, like Ultraman, because you're usually not running all 4 of those carry flyers, but most people are running Burning Godzilla, so hey man, we've been waiting for a Godzilla to be S tier for a while. Ultima used to be the guy way back in the day, but Burning Godzilla has emerged as the supreme Godzilla. Next is Dimension Tide. Dimension Tide's really good. I think it might need a nerf because the damage on it is really high. The vacuum effect is what makes it so good. And then the damage on top of it is just such a plus. Like, it doesn't need to be that high. Just tone it down a little bit, I think, and Dimension Tide is still probably S tier. Same with Psychic Chorus is like, we'll just move on to Psychic Chorus. It got like a 1-point heal drop, so it's pretty much the same exact thing. And Yeah, it's pretty good. The only thing I could say about Psychic Chorus is that if the enemy has a higher level Psychic Chorus, it pretty much counteracts yours. And it is a very level dependent unit. Next is Biolante. We did drop Biolante out of S tier. Now you may be asking why, because I do praise this thing and I do say Biolante is the best ground unit. So how is Burning Godzilla above it? Well, I think I was being a little too biased towards Biolante's kit rather than how she stacks up in the meta right now. And because Biolante cannot hit the top 4 units in S tier, which are flyers, she's essentially just a 3-cost tank in those situations. Now, she's not a bad 3-cost tank, especially for how much HP she has, but at the same time, she can't really carry like an S tier can, where Burning Godzilla is going to hit everything and explode on everything, which is what makes him so useful. If those units were on the ground, Biolante would have much more of a dominating presence than she has currently. She is still a great unit, top of A tier. Just, I don't think she deserves to be an S tier right now, just based on the meta, not her as a unit. Next is Kamacuras. Kamacuras is phenomenal. Very good support card, just a 3-hit meat shield that does really good DPS if you need it to. Very, very good thing to have. The thing about Kamacuras though is that whales never run Kamacuras because they don't need to, because they have way higher level stuff. So Kamacuras is kind of for the everyone that's not a whale, because I honestly never, and I mean never, see whales run Kamacuras. So it's kind of hard to put it in S tier. It does fall off. I mean, it doesn't fall off, but it kind of does. It's hard to kind of evaluate it, but I just feel like it's top of A, not S tier. And I don't think it really ever can be S tier because it can't carry. But man, I've never seen Kamacuras drop out of A tier. It's just such a good unit. You don't even need that many levels on it. Mine's still level 25, still does its job. And who doesn't love to see Godzilla smack down some Kamacuras in Son of Godzilla? Why not have him be good in this game? I'm down for it. Next is Anguirus. Anguirus is always just that sturdy boy, 4-cost tank that not a lot of units have. Daisy is now snorting through my door. I don't know why people want to be loud right now. Well, it's not even people, it's doggies, but you know. Anyways, Anguirus, 4-cost tank, 4,400 HP at level 30. Very tanky, stalls on buildings, and all you really need is some very high damage carries behind Anguirus, and he will do his job. He's very tanky. He's really good for when he gets on the leader, especially at full health, because he can tank the leader for so long. Nothing special. Kind of like Kamacuras, more of like a supportive unit, but twice the cost, a lot more HP. Still really good. Next is Godzilla Earth, who is a monster. Godzilla Earth just has some problems of being 9-cost and situationally can really backfire. He's just it's hard to evaluate as well because he's really strong, but he has his flaws. Whereas these units in S tier are really strong with not very many flaws at all. And Earth kind of does have a very big flaw. He's the most expensive unit in the game. He's very slow. And you kind of need Dimension Tide with this guy. If you play him without Dimension Tide, he will be good, but he's not going to be as destructive. Like, the reason he's high A right now is because I'm expecting you to use Dimension Tide with this guy. Same thing with Ultraman. So it's not really like that big of a surprise, but yeah, Godzilla Earth is a very good carry option, especially if you are looking to just invest in one unit to be a carry. Godzilla Earth can do that for you. He's definitely going to get you some wins, and he hits like an absolute truck. Next is Super X. So Super X is honestly a phenomenal 3-star carry. It always has been since it entered the game. The only problem with it is Dimension Tide and Ultraman, Godzilla Earth. You just don't want to get close to anything that's going to Dimension Tide combo it because it'll die instantly. But its stalling capabilities and backline DPS is still insane, and it will still always warrant an A tier in my opinion because I still run it and there's nothing that could set up a push like Super X can. It's a very, very good unit. Lower level players might have it might not be worth to run Super X because it does take a while for that damage to scale up. and it is very frail, so it needs the damage to carry. But very, very good. Next is Hedorah. So Hedorah with King Ghidorah, ever since King Ghidorah changed into Mecha King Ghidorah and pretty much ruined King Ghidorah in general, Hedorah's just had a very nice place in the meta. Used to be B tier, but has been in A tier for the past couple seasons. Also has gotten some buffs. Hedorah is an evolution unit as well, which does kind of hinder it a bit because there is a lot of evolution units that are good, like Batra and Firedan, Bylante. So you do have to mix and match what you want to use with it. But Hedorah's AoE Splash is really good, also combos well with Dimension Tide. It splashes off of Burning Godzilla, off of Anguirus, and does really nice damage. Usually will hit 2 things, and she's really good in overtime as well. So, kind of like Super X, not as counterable, but honestly she is kind of counterable, because King Caesar can wreck Hedorah, but I just don't see King Caesar that much. So Hedorah's kind of just chilling most of the time, doing its job, but never like doing anything crazy, just doing its job, which is a good job. Next is Space Godzilla. Space Godzilla did get a buff last season. We did the co-tier list. It didn't really change him that much, and if anything, I feel like I'm seeing less Space Godzilla this season. But he's still just a solid dude. He's tanky enough, does enough damage, buffs other units. The main thing with Space Godzilla is you can send Mothra Leo after him, and Mothra Leo's just going to hit way harder. You see a lot of whales do it because Mothra Leo's charge damage is so high. You throw a 25% boost on top of that, he is going to be hitting hard. Space Godzilla is just a very standard mid to low A to high B unit. He's always going to be doing pretty well. He is just not a carry, so he's kind of hard to invest in for most players, because as we all know, most of us know, it's even me who has, most 4-stars around level 20 now. It's still very hard to invest in multiple units. And Space Godzilla isn't a carry, so he's not exactly first or second on your list for investments. But if you do have a high level Space Godzilla, he does put in work. Next is Godzilla Ultima. Godzilla Ultima is honestly a double-edged sword. If Terrestris doesn't get it, I've seen whales lose to me because they ran Terrestris and got him killed and didn't have Ultima. Like, I see it a lot. He will lose you games. But Ultima in the right situation will also be very, very strong and win you games. And he did used to be one of the best units in the game, so I still feel like he is a decent A-tier option. Just, he gets really rare in the high-tier King of the Monsters because of that double-edged sword style that he has. There are ways to evolve him, but they are not always consistent. He is still really solid though, has great range, hits like a truck, very tanky. He's kind of everything you'd want in a sniper, except that you have to evolve him, which isn't always that consistent, but it's what balances him out pretty much. He's a pretty balanced unit in my opinion. Pretty strong, but counterable. Next is Kiryu Kai. Kiryu Kai is better than Mog in my opinion because so before you couldn't really deploy Kiryu like willy-nilly, but now you can because it incentivizes you to kill him twice, which means you can go for those energy bases, you can go for more things, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, you're still getting an evolution closer to your Kiryu Kai. And Kiryu Kai allows you to do a lot more with Kiryu. You can deploy him outside leader range to be annoying. You can deploy him on the leader to do a little bit more damage now. He has an instant, instead of his rockets flying in after, it's like an instant thing. So you can instantly damage something with like 600 plus attack. It's going to be doing a lot. I do think Kiryu Kai is solid, but nothing special still. But pretty damn solid, and I do like the change they gave to Kai. I just wish he would attack a little faster with his long range attacks. Sometimes he walks in place, which we do see with some units, especially newer ones. But hopefully if they can clean up a little bit of his animations, he's going to be pretty solid. I mean, he already is pretty solid, but yeah, it's pretty much Kai. Next is Mogira. Okay, so I was kind of low on Mogira because he doesn't do anything defensively, but what he does do offensively is still really strong, and there's nothing in the game that can deploy behind the leader for 5 cost. Kiryu can do it, but he's 1 cost higher, which doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it matters. And you can ask a lot of high-level players, they're going to say it matters too, because a lot of them run Mogira over Kiryu because of the timing. Mogira isn't anything special, but just the fact he can deploy behind the leader, be annoying, and allow for your other carries to do more damage while not taking hits is very, very good. So if we see more units that can free deploy like Kiryu or Mog, there's a very high chance that those can be replacing Mogira in the future, but I guess we'll see. We think of digging units, Megalon, Baragon, Zilla perhaps, those 3, Gorosaurus maybe even if they want to. I know it was supposed to be Baragon that dug in that scene, and that's why Gorosaurus dig. Does Gorosaurus dig? Is that like a canon thing now, or are we still giving that to Baragon, you know? Anyways, but yeah, it's Mog. Train Bomb. Train Bomb is pretty much a great counter to Energy Base, which is broken, which makes it a lot better than Energy Base because it's way easier to throw on your team, and it has more uses as it can also just deal 1,000 damage to any ground unit or the leader. You'll see it on any time you see a Kiryu leader, you bet your ass they're running Train Bomb. It's just a pretty solid A-tier pick, especially with a couple teams. Godzilla 54. He is going into A-tier. My opinion on him has not changed at all. I still think everything I said about him in the past. He is just a whale unit, and because of that, he's kind of has to go in the bottom of A. He is very slow, he's very tanky, and he hits very hard. Whale teams run him a lot. I don't think he's anything special by himself, but he does have a team right now with Burning Godzilla, with Space Godzilla, where he works pretty decently, so I just got to give him the nod at bottom of A. And it's not even like it works decently, it's pretty damn broken with high levels, and if you don't have the levels to compete with it, it's just going to run you over. It's pretty much they walk Burning Godzilla and G54 with Space Godzilla. They're all really slow, and by the time they get out to midfield to fight them, Mothra Leo comes in, which is usually level 30, and it just absolutely steamrolls you. So yeah, I think G54 has a place, but he's definitely not a carry. He's more of like a tank option, and they're not even using him for the transformation, so he's kind of a weird. He can be top of B, but I just gave him the nod because he is on those very dominant teams, so we'll just put him there. But I'm still not like super high on G54 being a carry on his own, you know? He's just not that. And next is Eva. Oh, not Eva. I always say Eva for this. 4th Angel, Sachiel. Sachiel's very underleveled. You're not going to see it very much. You have seen it on the channel maybe a couple times. We played like Administration 1 who might have had like a pink one. Another player who had like a level 30. If you have watched that and you've seen this unit at higher levels, it's absolutely busted. I'm convinced this thing could easily be S tier. I'm actually thinking that Burning Godzilla and 4th Angel are going to be so damn broken that Eva Unit 1 will be meta, because she ignores the explosions, so that's just a huge plus. Ignoring 2 explosions is massive. Now, that meta is probably going to take a couple months to happen, but I do think the 4th Angel Eva Unit 1 meta will be coming, especially if Burning Godzilla stays exactly the same way he is. So be ready for that. It's going to be horrible, I'm telling you guys. Unless Eva Unit 1 can deal with that, 4th Angel Burning Godzilla is going to be disgusting, especially 4th Angel. This unit is very, very strong. I'm fine with it because it's newer. It's a 3-star. I want to see these units be good, but I am leaning towards it possibly being a very cancerous strategy. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Let me know if you're a lower level player. Are you using 4th Angel? Is he one of your carries? Maybe you started last month and you got a lot of him early on, so he's on par with your other stuff. I haven't really used him yet, but as far as I've seen in fixed battles, which is very hard for a non-4-star to perform, he kicks a lot of ass. Very strong. Next is King Caesar, top of B. King Caesar is that dude, man. The guy does a lot of damage, and I'm tired of this guy being slept on. He is consistent, and that charge is threatening. That's one thing you could say is when you drop King Caesar, he's a threat. You have to have the right units to deal with him. And his counters aren't seen that much. Mega Gearus isn't really seen that much. Space Godzilla is a little more rare. Kamacruses are going to be there, but if they have to drop Kamacrus on your King Caesar, it leaves other options on your team to not have to deal with the Kamacrus. I just think King Caesar is really good. He helps a lot with killing Hedoras, Biolantes, any of those 2,000 to 2,500 HP units. King Caesar is hitting those super hard. And if you're like struggling with Hedoras or Biolantes, just throw in King Caesar. Dude's gonna blow it up. Next is Gigan 04. Gigan 04 counters the hell out of King Caesar, which I don't see too often. I don't see any of these units too often anymore. The thing is with these guys, because I was putting Gigan 04 in A, he was kind of in top of A a couple seasons ago and he's just been dropping. The problem is there's too many good flyers. Gigan 04 is really frail. I think he's more frail, or he's just as frail as King Caesar. But the thing about Gigan 04 is he doesn't have the initial charge damage that King Caesar has. So even if King Caesar dies in 3 seconds, he's still charging into something and still getting an attack off, where Gigan is zipping in and he could be getting hit by like Mothra and Batra while he's zipping in before he even does any damage. So Gigan 04 is kind of just a ground counter, which is still helpful. It's not like he's bad, but I just feel like he's not doing enough right now as far as the meta goes. Like he doesn't contribute into the meta enough to be A tier anymore. I still think he's a really good unit. He's not a bad investment. He's also not a carry though, and he's not something you should be prioritized leveling. But I still think he's really good, just not in A tier anymore in my opinion. Next is Dorats. Dorats has been on the rise. I've been using these things more and more. They help out a ton. You could pair them with Kamacrus. There's so many things you could do with the Dorats. I don't think they're nearly as reliable as Kamacrus. They're 1 cost more expensive, and they cannot body block as much. But they can do damage to Mothra, Firedan, and Batra, and they just do what they can do, you know? They're not bad. I would suggest throwing them in there. They do work very well with Kamacrus, but are countered by Dimension Tide. So they do have a Dimension Tide problem. But at the end of the day, I think they do pretty well for a 3-cost support, and I think it's better than Manila, which is saying a lot, because Manila used to be pretty good. Next is Mega Gearus. Mega Gearus is just a staple, solid B tier pick. She doesn't excel at anything anymore, but she's very solid at everything, if that makes sense. Her slow is what saves her pretty much. The defensive slow, still really good. I don't see her as much, but she can be very annoying. And because we don't see her as much anymore, she's kind of leaning towards an off-meta pick now. You can surprise a lot more people with that slow, and they're not going to be expecting it. Like, I know I don't expect it sometimes because I'm not used to seeing Mega Gearus. But she also hits really hard, and is just a good unit. Just a good unit. Next is Energy Base. Energy Base is broken, but Train Bomb is an efficient way to counter it. Kiryu, getting the Kiryu Kai buff makes it a lot easier to want to deploy Kiryu on an Energy Base because you don't care if he dies. And Energy Base is just, hey, if it's up, it's broken, so you got to take it out. Most people know that by now because they've lost to it, or just believe me, like you should. And yeah, I just think Energy Base, despite how broken it is, does have easy counters, so it is kind of balanced right now. And it's in B tier. Next is Descadora. Descadora is a good unit. I don't see it often at all. You need Dimension Tide with this unit because it can get stun locked to high hell. That is the one thing stopping Descadora from being really good in my opinion, is it gets stun locked so disgustingly easy. Like anything can stun lock it. But there's not that many stunners in the meta right now. Dimension Tide also can deal with those stunners because they're usually pretty low HP. It's decent, but nothing crazy. And especially because, I mean, I don't see Whales use it either, and I know Whales have a high level Descadora. It's also that it's 7 cost competing with 5 cost flyers. It's kind of hard for Descadora to deal. Next is Jet Jaguar SP. Just a decent tank. It's pretty much all I gotta say about Jet Jaguar. He's just a decent tank, has AoE. You can throw him in, but there's kind of better tank options. There's some situations where Jet Jaguar is going to be good, but in most situations, the other tanks are probably going to be better. He's also kind of fast, so he's not really a good first drop. He's alright. He's solid, but alright at the same time. Next is Mothra. Mothra got that buff, but damage was not what Mothra needed. She still has those other problems with the long evolution time and being very frail with low range. She can hit very hard, but situationally she's gonna get popped by like Leos and Batras, so she still has her struggles. Next is Mecha King Ghidorah. Mecha King Ghidorah has fallen from grace when he got that machine upgrade. It just went downhill, man. So Mecha King Ghidorah now is too slow of an attacker, doesn't do enough damage, and is too high a cost, so it's kind of hard to deploy him. He's also really fast. He's a lot faster than, I think he's faster than normal King Ghidorah. He's just not really meshing into the meta right now, and it's also because of that high cost he has. He's just okay. I've seen Mecha King Ghidorah do decently, but it really requires a lot of momentum. If you're on your back foot, it's really hard to get Mecha King Ghidorah up and running. Next is Naranga. I think Naranga is entering the meta slowly but surely. Mine is almost level 30. This ranked battle Naranga video is coming. We're finally going to see how good this guy is. I'm going to be trying him out a ton. So that next tier list, we're really going to know how good Naranga is. Right now, I think he's solid, man. He does stun lock a lot more than the unit showcase will show. Like, he doesn't stun lock very much head on, but if he's on the side, he can really lock up some stuff. The invisibility is very nice because it allows him to not tank things. The best thing in my mind to pair him with is snipers like Ultima and Super X, because the other units are going to lock onto Ultima and it lets Naranga sneak in there and start stunning and switching aggro. There's a lot of things I am crafting in my mind for this dude to be good, but I do think Naranga is very solid. A lot of people have commented before that Naranga is solid, and if you have him in your deck, yeah, I mean, he's doing pretty good. I'm hoping at level 30 that this guy can be a mainstay like Anguirus, but I guess we will see. He is a little bit lower on the statistics side. He is kind of like a Mecha Godzilla 93, like almost exactly the same stats, but he does have a lot more utility than Mecha Godzilla, which puts him in the B tier. Next is G89, very simple unit, very tanky, hits very hard, high 7 cost, pretty counterable, but also hits really hard. So you're going to see a lot of people still use G89 because he's really easy to use, and you can get a lot of cheese wins by turning your brain off and just Geigen Rippering, dropping Kiryu, or whatever the hell you want to do. It gets me sometimes when I'm playing like fun teams for the videos, but most people are running counters. Like all you really need is Kamacuras or Mega Gearus, you know, something. And most people do have that counter. Next is Destroya. Destroya is also tough to rate because it did get that buff. I do think it's stronger, and I do think it has a place. I used it at level 11 like a couple weeks ago, and it did do decently, but at the same time, it's pretty underleveled still for most people, and it still is a 7 cost 3 evolution. And if it's a 7 cost 3 evolution, it has to be that strong, you know? It has to be that strong. And if it is that strong, it's like barely that strong because it's still not being seen. It still has to compete with, like, think of Ultraman and Mothra Leo. Mothra Leo, you don't even have to evolve. You just throw it out. Destroyer, you have to evolve twice, and it's going to be 2 costs more than Mothra Leo, and it can get hit by ground units. You know, it's kind of tough for Destroyer to rise to that A and S tier as of right now, especially because of the levels, but also because of what I just mentioned. Still pretty solid though, solid enough for B tier. Next is EVA Unit 1. Like I was mentioning before, I think EVA Unit 1 has a lot of potential in these next coming months. If 4th Angel Sashiel and Burning Godzilla are taking over, this unit will see play. I guarantee it. It statistically is good enough to kill those guys. It's statistically pretty damn solid in general, especially with high levels. It has range, it has small piercing, but it's something. And it stalls pretty nicely, so it honestly doesn't feel that expensive to drop for 6. And the only reason it's in bottom of B right now is because it is brand new, it is lower leveled, and I'm rarely seeing it right now because of that. But in the future, EVA Unit 1 is going to be rising. I can guarantee it because I do think 4th Angel is going to be very strong, and we all know Burning Godzilla is very strong. Next is Godzilla 04. My opinion on this guy is starting to fade because he has a very weird problem where he's too fast for his own good. He is underleveled, so he already has that problem, but he's so damn fast that it's hard to stack a push with him, and he's not good enough to fight things with less energy than the opponent. I think this unit needs way higher health to compensate for how fast he is because he gets into those fights extremely fast. And I don't really see him too often, even by whales, they're not really trying him. I don't think he's bad, but I do think he needs a health buff for sure, and an animation buff like a couple of the newer units, but still is a B tier pick, just maybe needs a little help. Next is G21. I just popped off with G21, just beat a whale, still C tier. You guys, still has the level issue. They are not back in the game, so until that happens, we're not going to be seeing much play from these dudes. G21 is still very counterable. You have to run like Biolante to even make this guy work because he does not deal with swarms well at all or stunners. But he does hit very hard, you know, it's not like he's that bad, which is why he's top of C. But it's mainly a level issue, and at the end of the day, he's never going to be higher than B tier with how he currently is, and not even top of B. We're talking like middle to bottom. So G21's good enough to use for fun, I'll say that. He's not like a horrible unit to use like Jet Jaguar 73. But at the same time, you can't really be expecting to win every match, especially if they have the right things to counter him. Next is Kong. Kong's issue is severely has to do with levels because Kong is a tank like G89. And the reason why G89 is run very often despite being a bottom of B tier pick is because it's very easy to level him to 30, and those high damage, high health tanks need those levels to perform. Kong needs to be like 20 plus to be seen in any meta matches, and he's still 6 cost, which is very expensive. I do think Kong would perform better as a 5 cost and maybe a tiny little buff to his HP, maybe, like, you know, just give both these guys a nod when they come back. Give them a nice buff. Let's see these guys enter the meta because they have been out of the meta for so damn long. Honestly, they've never been meta. They've never been meta, ever. So these guys need help when they get back. Hopefully Mechagodzilla 2021 is coming with them, or a new monster from a new movie that we don't know about. I don't know, but yeah, these guys could use a nice little buff. But their kits aren't bad. They have potential. They're not like doomed units. You can still have fun with them. You can literally go on my channel right now, see me pop off with G21, see me pop off with Kong. Hell, I popped off with freaking helicopter base. You know, you can win with anything, but yeah, as far as like competing meta-wise, they're just not really doing it. Next is Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla is pretty much a bad 3 evolution unit. He's not good. He's very counterable very easily because flyers usually sit in the back instead of the front. And even if he does get the thing off on Mothra Leo where he starts triggering his AoE, Mothra Leo's so damn strong with a Psychic Chorus, probably going to melt him down. He's also not that high of a level. He is counterable in his Shinagawa form. You could literally just train bomb it and he'll evolve and Shin Godzilla will have like 10% of his HP. The only saving grace with this unit is that if you can get off a full Shinagawa, full health evolution behind your leader, save up a lot of energy and do a Geigen rush strategy, it can be very good. But as far as Shin Godzilla goes as a unit by himself, it's just very, very, very lackluster. Needs more HP, needs more attack, needs more. Next is Zeton. So, yes, I was high on Zeton. Yes, I still think the Godzilla Earth combo is solid, but without Godzilla Earth, which is a niche strategy anyways, like it's a for fun strat. Without Godzilla Earth, Zeton needs help. He's not an 8-cost unit for how much damage he does. He needs to be like 7 or 6. I'm leaning towards 7, but he definitely needs a buff. He should be different from how he is right now. He's not really seeing any play. I don't even think people in the lower ranks are really using him. He just doesn't really do that much damage. And if you're not pushing him with Godzilla Earth, the explosion usually is meaningless. Next is Manila. I'm going to take a drink real quick. Hold up. There we go. Manila. Manila has fallen greatly. Because Manila is a 2-cost support unit, it's either with support units that are like 3 cost or below, it's either be good or be bad. And Manila's just not good anymore. He's also not bad, but he's just not good anymore. He's going to sit back and throw out his stuns, but it's not as reliable, it's not as quick, and it's not really doing as much as you'd want it. Kamacuras and Dorats have become the better low-cost combo to have than Kamacuras Manila. And yeah, I just think Manila he needs help, man. That last nerf he got, which was totally unnecessary, doomed this unit, and I feel bad for all the Manila fans. I feel bad for Mr. Goji fan, and that's pretty much the only Manila fan I know, but yeah, give Manila some help, man. He wasn't that annoying. If you complained about Manila in the past, get good, okay? He's not that bad, but I don't think he should be in C tier. He at least should be good enough for B, but he's just not right now. Mephiles is weird because Mephiles is good, but he's still underleveled. He's a 3-star, and the thing with Mephiles is there's just other things that do what he does better. The thing that Mephiles should have over them is he's cheaper, but he's not. He's 6 cost. This unit needs to be 5 cost, and he's freaking good to go. Let's just all agree that Mephiles should be 5 cost, and the dude's chilling, man. I think he's solid. Next is Mbabase. Mbabase can get train bombed, but it's decent enough in the right situations to warrant a middle of C tier pick. Not that that's saying much, but it can do alright sometimes. Markalite Cannon hits like a truck, but has train bomb issues and gets outranged by Super X. So not exactly the greatest thing, but hits like a truck, like I said, so can be pretty good into some teams. Kamacuras Swarm, a B tier defensive unit, a D tier offensive unit, averages out to C tier. It's a great explanation for that. Gigan. So Gigan got buffed. I'm going to put him over Mechagodzilla again, but Gigan is weird because, there's only 2 ways you can viably play Gigan in high tier play. As the last thing in a push, using him like a King Caesar, or pretty much like a Mogira drop. Instead of dropping Mogira with the tunnel, it's pretty much you're running Gigan on the side, and he's going to be doing a lot more damage than Mogira and be a lot tankier. The problem is he has to run there, and yeah, he's not always getting there, so I still think Gigan has issues. He probably can use some more buffs, but at the end of the day, I think Gigan's just going to be a bad unit in Godzilla Battle Line. This might be the best version we can get from him, but at least it's something. At least they're trying, and we have gotten some wins with him on the channel, so he's not complete dog crap, but he is not very good by any means. Mechagodzilla is a unit that could use a frickin' buff. How long has it been, dude? This guy's been so subpar for so damn long. Please fix this Mechagodzilla. He's pretty much just a worse Naranga. That's literally it. He has tiny bit better stats than Naranga, with no invisibility and with no stuns. It's just totally not worth it at this point. Use Naranga over Mechagodzilla. if you just, for some reason, really like Mechagodzilla, throw in the Naranga. And last in C tier is Sonde. I just never see Sonde being used. Sniper teams are not that good because Dimension Tide counteracts the slow because it pulls them all in and does damage. It's just not a very reliable thing to have in your deck. And Sonde stuns are kind of bugs, so I don't really include it with, and no one really does it, surprisingly. You see it every once in a while, but most of the time people aren't doing it. On to our D tier. Stealth Bomber. Stealth Bomber might be better. Honestly, I don't care, man. I don't want to try it. It's just like Gigan. If anything, it's right behind him or in front of him. I don't know. If you really love... I lost to it that one video, sure, but I was using a level 3 Final Wars Godzilla. Who gives a shit? Yeah, it's just the same exact problems as Gigan, and it doesn't have the pushing strategy either. And it does less DPS while being less tanky, I believe. The only benefit it has over Gigan is it flies, but I mean, we're in a flyer meta, so I don't think it matters too much. Emboss is next. Emboss are just not worth it for 3 costs. They need to be 2 costs in my opinion, and then maybe they'll be worth it. But as they are right now, they don't do any damage, and they're just there to stun something, and usually they can't kill it, so they'll just die before they can really do anything they need to do. Destroy Larva Swarm is just a bad swarm, only used on defense, really horrible offensively. It just doesn't help you in my opinion. It can help you on defense, but it'll never give you like a plus situation. You're either like negating what they're doing or going in the red in energy. There's no plus you get from Destroy Larva Swarm. Rodan 64, is that what Rodan you are? Super trash in King of the Monsters. Rodan is so freaking trash. Lower tier players, if you're listening to this and losing your minds, like, what, Rodan's killing me every freaking match. I'm losing my mind because this Rodan's just flying in there. Trust me, it's because there's no flyers yet, and they overleveled their Rodan. He's just doing really good in the early ranks. That will phase out, I promise you, because this unit sucks in King of the Monsters. Next is Attack Helicopters. Train Bomb just dooms this thing, and the missiles despawn when the helicopters die, which they usually do when they're in a trade with something. It needs some buffs. Jet Jaguar 73, a horrible unit. Needs more buffs. It's just horrible, man. I don't even want to talk about you, Jet Jaguar. They have disgraced your legacy. You are terrible. Kid Ship, a teleport for 5 costs. It's just not worth it. That is pretty much the bottom line. The ability isn't bad. You can make plays with it, but it's almost never worth it for 5 costs. Missile Strike, literally useless. It has no use in the meta. It is a 2 cost higher than Train Bomb that does less damage. It's pretty bad. And Giant Octopus is god-awful trash. Literally 0 uses. Literally just a meme unit. Please fix Giant Octopus. Please give it 1,000 more HP or something. Please give it more move speed. It is effing terrible. But that is our list. Let me know what you think. We didn't really change too much, but we did upgrade Burning Godzilla to S tier. Let me know if you think he deserves it. We downgraded Biollante to A tier. And we did mix around a little bit of things. We dropped Gigan to B. I'm sure that's going to piss off Spence, but oh well, Spence, suck it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're going to be trying out Naranga very soon. I'm going to have this ranked battle ready to go, so be ready for that. Go ahead and subscribe down below. But that is going to conclude my tier list. Always down to discuss meta stuff down below. If you want to drop a comment, I read them all. And have a good rest of your day. Take care and peace the hell out.